my mandatory copyright claim before a video where I don't own the content. All content for this book, for the story, The Spirit of the Thing, comes from the Tales from the Nightside, which is owned by Simon R. Green and Penguin House Publishing, or any other publisher that may publish this story. It also comes from a magazine which I couldn't find the name of, so, oh well, this all boils down to, please don't flag, copyright, or try and sue me. Thank you very much for understanding. Bye. Hey there, ghosts and ghouls. Warlock Boo here. And the other day I was at my local library, where I discovered they had one of my favorite author's books that's a mashup of a bunch of his short stories. The author is Simon R. Green, and the book itself is Tales from the Nightside. So I decided I'll read one. Now some of these are a bit too long, or a bit too many characters that I can't voice that many. But they had one that sounded perfect. The story is The Spirit of the Thing. And I'm hoping you guys like it as much as I do. This is a video that will not be, I won't gain any money from this because I can't actually put money to gain from it because this isn't my content. This is me reading someone else's content, and I don't want to get flagged or copyright claimed. So there may not be a commercial during this, or after it, or before it, which you guys will cheer. Me, I will pout because I barely make any money from this channel anyways. But still, this is The Spirit of Things from Tales from the Nightside by Simon R. Green. Enjoy. In the Nightside, that secret hidden heart of London, where it's always the darkest part of the night, and the dawn never comes, you can find some of the best and worst bars in the world. There are plenty that will serve you liquid moonlight in a tall glass, or an angel's tear, or a wine that was old when Rome was young. And then there's the Jolly Cripple. You get to one of the worst bars in the world by walking down the kind of alley you normally have the sense to stay out of. Tucked away behind more respectable establishments, light from the street doesn't penetrate far. It's always half full of junk and garbage, and the only reason there aren't any bodies to step over is because the rats have eaten them all. You have to watch out for these rats in the Nightside. Some people say they're evolving. In fact, some people claim to have seen the damn things using knives and forks. I wouldn't normally be seen dead in a dive like the Jolly Cripple, but I was working. At the time, I was between clients and in need of a fast walk-around money. So, when the bar's owner got word of me that there was a quick and easy money to be made, I swallowed my pride. I'm John Tyler, private investigator. I have a gift for finding things and people. I always find the truth for my clients, even if it means having to walk into places where even angels would wince and turn their head aside. The Jolly Cripple was a drinker's bar, not a place for conversation or companionship, more of the kind of place you go when the world has kicked you out. Your credit card's no good, and your stomach can't handle the good stuff anymore, even if you could afford it. In the Jolly Cripple, the floors were sticky, the air was thick, with half a dozen kinds of smoke, and the only thing you could be sure of was vomit in the corner and piss and blood in the toilets. The owner kept the lights down low, partially so you couldn't see how bad the place really was, but mostly because the patrons preferred it that way. The owner, the bartender, was one Maxie Elopios, a sleazy soul in an unwashed body, dark and hairy, always smiling. Maxie wore a grimy t-shirt with the legend, "It's all Greek to me," and showed off his various bloodstains like badges of honor. No one ever gave Maxie any trouble in his bar, or at least not twice. He was short and squat, with a broad shoulders and a square, brutal face under a shock of black hair. More dark hair covered his bare arms, hands, knuckles. He never stopped smiling, but it never once reached his eyes. Maxie was always ready to sell you anything you could afford, especially if it was bad for you. Some people said he only served people drinks so he could watch them die by inches. Maxie hired me to find out who'd been diluting his drinks and driving his customers away. The only thing that could. Didn't take me long to find out who. I sat down at the bar, raised my gift, and concentrated on the sample bottle of what should have been gin, but was now so watered down you could have kept goldfish in it. My mind leapt up and out, towards the connection between the water and its source, right back to where it came from. My sight shot down through the barroom floor, down and down into the sewers below. Long stone tunnels with curving walls, illuminated by fluorescent moths and fungi, channeling thick, dark water with things floating in it, all kinds of things. In the nightside sewers, even trained workers tread carefully and often carry flamethrowers, just in case. I looked around me, my sight searching for the presence I'd felt, and something looked back. Something knew I was there, even though only in spirit. The murky water churned, and heavier than the great head rose out of the dark water, followed by a body. It only took me a moment to realize both head and body were made up of water and nothing else. The face was broad and unlovely, the body obscenely female, like one of those ancient fertility goddess statues. Thick rivulets of water ran down her face like slow tears, and ripples bulged constantly around her body. A water elemental. I'd heard the nightside had been using them to clean the sewers, taking in all the bad stuff and purifying it inside themselves. The nightside always find cheap and practical ways to solve its problems, even if they aren't always very nice solutions. "Who disturbs me?" said the sewer elemental in a thick, gelatinous voice. "John Tyler," I said. Back in the bar, my lips were moving, but my words could only be heard down in the sewers. "You've been interfering with one of the bars above, using your power to infuse the bottles with your water. You know, you're not supposed to get involved with the world above." "I am old," said the water elemental of the sewer. "So old. Even I don't remember how old I am. I was worshipped once, but the world changed, and I could not. So even the once worshipped and abandoned must work for a living. I have fallen very far from what I was, but then that's the nightside for you. Now I deal in shit and piss and other things that make them pure again, because someone has to. It's a living, but fallen as I am, no one insults me, defies me, cheats me. I serve all the bars in this area, and the owners and I have come to an understanding, all but Maxie. He refuses my responsible demands." "Oh, hell," I said. "It's a labor dispute. What are you asking for? Better work conditions?" "I want him to clean up his act," said the elemental of the sewers. "And if he wants, I'll do it for him. I can do a lot worse to him than dilute his filthy drinks." "That is between you and him," I said firmly. "I don't do arbitrators." And then I got the hell out of there. Back in the bar, in my body, I confronted Maxie. "You didn't tell me this was a dispute between contractors, Maxie." He laughed and slapped one great palm hard against his grimy top. "I knew it. I knew it was that water bitch down in the sewers. I needed you to confirm it, Tyler. So why she mad at you? Apart from the fact that you're a loathsome, disgusting individual." He laughed again and poured me a drink for what passed for good stuff in this bar. "She wanted me to serve better booze. Says the impurities in the stuff I sell is polluting her system and leaving a nasty taste in her mouth." I could leave a nasty taste in her mouth. She pressured all the other bars and they gave in, but not me. Not me! No one tells Maxie what to do in his own bar. Silly cow. Cheap and nasty is what my customers want, so cheap and nasty is what they get. "So, for a while there, your patrons were drinking booze mixed with sewer water?" I said. "I'm surprised so many stayed." "I'm surprised so many of them noticed," said Maxie. "Good thing I noticed, never drank the tap water." "All right, Tyler, you've confirmed what I needed to know. I'll take it from here. I can handle her. Think I can get her down in the sewers, but I'll show that bitch. No one messes with me and gets away with it. Now, here's what we agreed on." He pushed a thin stack of grubby banknotes across the bar, and I counted them quickly before making them disappear about my person. You don't want to attract attention in a bar like Jolly Cripple. Maxie grinned at me in what he thought was an intimidation way. No need to rush away, Tyler. Have another drink. Drinks are on the house for you. Make yourself at home. I should have left. I should have known better. But it was one of the few places my credit wouldn't look for me. And besides, the drinks were on the house. I sat at a table in the corner, working my way through a bottle of the kind of tequila that doesn't have a worm in it because the tequila is strong enough to dissolve the worm. A woman in a long white dress walked up to my table. I didn't pay her much attention at first, except to wonder what someone so normal looking was doing in a dive like this. And then she walked right through the table next to me and the people sitting around it. She drifted through them as though they weren't even there. And each of them in turn shuddered briefly and paid closer attention to their drink. Their attitude said it all. They'd seen this woman in white before, and they didn't want to know. She stopped before me, looking at me with cool, quite desperate eyes. You have to help me. I've been murdered. I need you to find out who killed me. That's what comes from hanging around in strange bars. I gestured to her to sit down opposite of me, and she did so perfectly easily. She still remembered what it felt like to have a body, which meant she hadn't been dead long. I looked her over carefully. I couldn't see any obvious death wounds, not even a light ligature around her neck. Most murders' ghosts appeared the way they were when they died, a trauma overriding anything else. What makes you think someone thinks you were murdered? I said bluntly. Because there's a hole in my memory, she said. I don't remember coming here, don't remember dying here, but now I'm a ghost, and I can't leave this bar. Something's preventing me. Something must be put right. I can feel it. Help me, please. Don't leave me like this. I always was a sucker for a sob story. Comes with the job and the territory. She had no way of paying me, and I normally avoid charity work. But I just been paid, and I had nothing else to do, so I nodded briefly and considered the problem. It's a wonder there aren't more ghosts in the night side. When you think about it, we've got every other kind of supernatural phenomenon you can think of, and there's never any shortage of sudden deceased. Anyone with a sight can see a ghost, from stone tape recordings where moments from the past imprinted themselves on the surrounding endless repeating, like insects trapped in an amber, to lost souls damned to wander the world throughout tragic misdeeds and unfortunate business. There are very few hauntings in the night side. As such, the atmosphere here is so saturated with magic and super science and general weird business that they swamped and drowned out all the lesser signals. Though there are always a few stubborn souls who won't be told, like Long John Baldwin, who drank himself to death in my usual bar, Strange Fellows, dropped stone dead while rising out one last glass of Valhalla venom to his lips and hit the floor with the smile still on his face. The bar's owner, Alex, had the body removed, but even before the funeral's over, Long John was back in his familiar place at the bar, calling for a fresh bottle. Half a dozen unsuccessful exorcisms later, Alex gave up and hired Long John as his replacement bartender and security guard. Long John drinks the memories of old booze from empty bottles and enjoys the company of fellow drinkers as he always did. They're a hardened bunch in Strange Fellows. And as Alex says, a ghost is more intelligent than a watchdog or a security system, and a lot cheaper to run. I could feel a sudden tension on the air, as wrongness, as though there was a reason why the ghost shouldn't be there. She was an unusually strong manifestation. No transparency, no fraying around the edges. That usually meant a strong character when she was alive. She didn't flinch as I looked her over thoughtfully. She was a tall, slender brunette with neatly styled hair and understated makeup, in a long white dress of such ostentatious simplicity that it had to have cost a bundle. Do you know your name? I said firmly. Holly DeLint. And what a nice girl like you doing in a dive like this? I don't know. Normally I wouldn't be seen dead in a place like this. We both smiled slightly. Could someone have brought you here, Holly? Could that person have murdered me? Perhaps. But who would I know in a place like this? She had a point. A woman like her doesn't belong here. So I left her sitting at the table and made my rounds of that bar, politely interrogating the regulars. Most of them didn't feel like talking, but I'm John Tyler. I have a reputation. Not a very nice one, but it means people will talk to me when they wouldn't talk to anyone else. They doesn't know Holly. They doesn't know anything. They hadn't seen anything because they didn't come to a bar like this to take any interest in other people's problems, and they generally might not have noticed a ghost. One of the side effects of too much booze is that it shuts down the sight, though you can still end up seeing things that aren't there. I went back to Holly, still sitting patiently at the table. I sat down opposite of her and used my gift to find out what had happened to her recent past. Faint pastoral images of Holly appeared all around the bar, blinking on and off from where she tried to talk to people, or begged for help, or tried to leave and been thrown back. I concentrated, sorting through the various images until I found the memory of the last thing she'd done while still alive. I got up from the table and followed the last traces of living Holly all the way to the back of the bar, to the toilet. She went into the ladies, and I went in after her. Luckily, there was no one else there. Then, or now, so I could watch uninterrupted as Holly DeLint opened a cubicle, sat down, then washed down a big handful of pills with most of the bottle of whiskey. She went about and quite methodically, with no tears or hysterics, her face cold and even indifferent, though her eyes still seemed terribly sad. She killed herself with pills and booze. The last image showed her slumping slowly sideways, and the bottle slipping from her numbed fingers as the last of the light went out of her eyes. I went back into the bar and sat down again opposite Holly. She looked at me inquisitively, trustingly. So, what could I do except tell her the truth? There was no murder, Holly. You took your own life. Can you tell me why? But she was gone. Disappeared in a moment, blinking out of existence like a punctured soap bubble. No sign to show that anyone had even been sitting there. So I went back to the bar, told Maxie what had happened, and he laughed in my face. You should have talked to me first, Tyler. I could have told you about her. You aren't the first stranger she's approached. Look, you know the old urban legend where the guy's driving along, minding his own business, and sees a woman in white signaling desperately for the side of the road? He's a good guy, so he stops and asks what's up. She says she needs a lift home. So he takes her where she wants to go. But the woman doesn't say a word all through the drive, and when it finally gets there, she's disappeared. The guy's at the address tells the driver the woman was killed out there on the road long ago, but she keeps stopping drivers, asking them to take her home. Old story, right? It's the same here, except our woman is white, keeps telling people that she's been murdered, but doesn't remember how. And when our good Samaritans find out the truth and tell her, she disappears until the next sucker comes along. You ready for another drink? Can't you do something, I said. I've tried all the usual shit, said Maxie, but she's a hard one to shift. You know, think you could do something? That little bitch is seriously bad for my business. I went back to the table in the corner to do some hard thinking. Most people would walk away or discover the ghost was nothing more than a repetitious cycle, but I'm not most people. I couldn't bear to think of Holly trapped in this place, maybe forever. Why would a woman with apparently everything to live for kill herself in a dive like this? I raised my gift, and once again, pastel-tinted, semi-transparent images of the living. Holly darted back and forth through the dimly lit bar, lighting briefly at the table and that, like a flower fairy at midnight. It doesn't take me long to realize there was one table she visited more than most. So I went over to the people sitting there and made them all tell me everything they knew. Professional Hartnell was a gray-haired old gentleman in a battered city suit. He used to be somebody, but he couldn't remember who. Igor was a shaven-headed kobold with more piercings than most who'd run away from the German minds of his people to see the world. He doesn't think much of the world, but he couldn't go back, so he started in the NightSide, where no one gave a damn to he was gay. The third drink was a bartered old Russian betrayed by the revolution, but appalled at what his country had become. No one mentioned the ice pick sticking out of the back of his head. They didn't know Holly as much, but they knew who she'd come after. She came to the Jolly Cripple to save someone who didn't want to be saved. Her brother, Craig DeLint. He drank himself to death right here in the bar, right at this table. Sometimes in the company, more often not, because the only company he was interested in came in the bottle. I used my gift again and managed to pull up a few ghost images from the past of the living Craig. Stick-thin, shabby clothes, the bones standing out in his gray face, dead eyes. "You're wasting your time, sir," Craig DeLint said patiently. "You know I don't have any reason to drink. No great trauma, no terrible loss. I like to drink, and I don't care about anything else. Started out in all the best places and worked my way down to this, where someone like me belongs. Go home, sis. You don't belong here. Go home before something bad happens to you." "I can't leave you here. There must be something I can do." "And that's the difference between us, sis. Right there. You always think there's something you can be done, but I know at lost cause when I see one." The scene shifted abruptly, and there was Holly at the bar, arguing furiously with Max. He still smiled, even as he said things that cut her like knives. "Course I encourage your brother to drink, sweetie. That's my job. That's what he was here for. And no, I don't give a damn what he's dead. He was dying when he walked in here, by his own choice. I only helped him on his way. Now either you buy a drink or you get out of my face. I got work to do." "I'll have you shut down," said Holly, her voice fierce. Now her small hands clenched in a fist. He laughed in her face. "Like to see you try, sweetie. This is a NightSide, where everyone's free to go to hell in their own way. I know people. Important people. Money talks, Maxie, and I've got a far more of it than you have." He smiled easily. "You've got balls, sweetie. Okay, let's talk this over a drink." "I don't drink." "My bar, my rules. You want to talk with me, you drink with me." Holly shrugged and turned away, staring at the table where her brother died. Maxie poured 2 drinks from a bottle, then slipped a little something into Holly's glass. He watched, smiling, as Holly gulped the stuff down to get rid of it, and then he smiled even more widely as all the expression went out of her face. "There, that's better," Maxie said. "Little Miss Richbit coming to my bar, throwing your weight about, telling me what to do? I don't think so. Feeling a little more suggestible, are you? Good, good. Such a shame about your brother. You must be sad, very sad. So sad you want to end it all. So here's a big handful of helpful pills and a bottle of booze. You can go put an end to yourself out back in the toilets. Bye-bye, sweetie. Don't make a mess." The ghost image snapped off, and the memory ended. I was so angry. I could barely breathe. I got up from the table and stormed over to the bar. Maxie leaned forward to say something, and I grabbed 2 handfuls of his grubby t-shirt and hauled him right over the bar so I could stick my face right into his. He had enough sense not to struggle. "You knew," I said. "You knew all along. You made her kill herself." "I said no choice," said Maxie. He's still smiling. "It was self-defense. She was gonna shut me down, and yeah, I knew all along. That's why I hired you. I knew you'd solve the elemental business right away, then stick around for the free drinks. I knew that ghost would approach you, and you'd get involved. I needed someone to get rid of her, and you always were a soft touch, Tyler." I let him go. I didn't want to touch him anymore. He backed away cautiously and sneered at me from the safe distance. "You feel sorry for that bitch? Help her on her way to the great hereafter. You'd be doing her a favor and me too. I told you she was bad for business." I turned my back on him and went back to the drinkers who'd known him best. And before any of them could even say anything, I forced my gift through them, through their memories of Crag, and reached out to him in a direction I knew but could not name. A door opened that hadn't been there before, and a great light spilled out into the bar. A fierce and unrelenting light, too bright for the living to look at directly. The drinkers in the bar should have winced away from it, used as they were to the permanent gloom, but something in the light touched them, despite themselves, walking old memories of what might have been. And out of the light came Craig DeLint, walking free and easily. He reached out his hand, smiling kindly, and out of the gloom came the ghost of Hollydilyn, walking free and easily. And she took his hand. They smiled at each other. Then Crag led her through the doorway and into the light, and the door shut behind them, and they were gone. In the renewed gloom of the bar, Maxie stood and howled with glee, slapping his heavy hands on the bar in triumph. Finally free of that bitch! Free at last! Knew you had it in you, Tyler! Drinks on the house, people! On the house! And they all came stumbling up to the bar, already forgetting what they might have seen in the light. Maxie bruised himself serving them, and I considered him thoughtfully from a distance. Maxie had murdered Holly and got away with it, and used me to clean up after him, removing the only part of the business that still haunted him. So I raised my gift one last time and made contact with the element of the sewer deep under the bar. Maxie will never agree to deal with you want, I said. He likes things the way they are, but you might have a better luck with a new owner. You put your sewer water into Maxie's bottle. There are only places you could put it. I take your meaning, John Tyler, said the elemental. You're everything they said you are. Maxie lurched suddenly behind his bar, flailing desperately about him as his lungs filled with water. I turned my back on the drowning man and walked away. Through being me, I couldn't resist having at least one last word. Have one on me, Maxie. So, ghosts and ghouls, what did you think of that? That was probably the longest story I have read, and I may not get as many views for it, but I wanted to read it really badly, and I hope you guys liked it. To connect it with another video, my Let's Talk What is Urban Fiction, that was urban fiction, my fellows. That was urban fiction. But I hope you liked it. If you like it, and maybe I'll do another one of his stories or someone else's. You got a suggestion for me? Tell me. I will gladly do it. But I want to have your comments and what you think. This has been Warlock Boo. I hope to be spoken y'all later. Bye.
I found you!
Oh,